The case People of the Philippines versus Juliet Rivera E. Otom and Jason Lacdan E. Parto revolves around charges of illegal drug possession and trafficking. Juliet Rivera and Jason Lacdan were accused of conspiring to sell illegal drugs, specifically methamphetamine hydrochloride, also known as shabu. The incident took place during a police bypass operation where undercover officers purchased drugs from the two accused individuals. Both were arrested and the illegal drugs were seized during the operation. Juliet Rivera was convicted and sentenced by the trial court while Jason Lacdan was acquitted. Rivera appealed her conviction, arguing that the evidence against her was insufficient and that the police failed to follow proper procedures during the operation, including issues with the chain of custody of the seized drugs. The Court of Appeals upheld the conviction, stating that the evidence, particularly the bypass operation, was credible and reliable. It also emphasized that the chain of custody of the drugs was properly established. The appeal filed by Rivera was rejected, affirming the trial court's decision. In summary, the case addresses the criminal involvement of Juliet Rivera in drug trafficking, and despite her appeal, her conviction was upheld by the appellate court due to the sufficient evidence. Now let us discuss the facts. An information was filed against Rivera for violating Section 5, Article 2 of the Republic Act 9165, the accusatory portion of which reads: First is the intelligence gathering. The operation begins with intelligence gathering. In this case, the San Pedro Municipal Police Station received a tip from a confidential informant who reported that Jason Lacdan was involved in selling drugs. The police verified the information by conducting a surveillance operation at Lacdan's residence. The surveillance helped confirm the presence of suspected drug users frequenting the house and identified Juliet Rivera as a potential accomplice in the drug transaction. Second, pre-operation planning. After confirming the illegal drug activities, the police team under the leadership of Police Inspector Antonio Gutierrez prepared a pre-operation report and submitted it to the Philippine Drug Enforcement Agency for approval and coordination. This step ensures that the operation is carried out legally and that the necessary support and resources are available. Third, authorization to operate. Following the approval from the PDEA, the police received the necessary authority to conduct the bypass operation. This legal document authorizes the police team to execute the operation and ensures that the operation is carried out in accordance with the law. Fourth is the deployment of team members. The police assembled a team for the operation. The team included undercover officers and other members of the bypass team. These are Police Officer 1 Sonny Cyrus De Leon, the undercover officer who would directly engage with the suspects in the drug transaction, PO2 Edgardo Caranda, and PO1 Gifford Signa, officers who would serve as backup and take positions around the target area to ensure security and prevent the suspects from fleeing. Confidential informant. This informant plays a crucial role in identifying the suspects and guiding the undercover officer to the location of the transaction. The officers were briefed on their roles and the operational procedures. The team ensured that they had a proper exit plan and that their positions were strategically located around the target house about 7 to 8 meters away from the site of the transaction. Fifth, execution of the bypass. At the designated time around 3 p.m., PO1 De Leon and the confidential informant approached Juliet Rivera at Lacdan's residence. The undercover officer was to initiate the transaction by asking if Lacdan was available to sell drugs. The officers ensured that the interaction was discreet and Rivera was approached as a willing participant in the drug deal. The transaction involved PO1 De Leon handing 200 pesos in exchange for a plastic sachet containing suspected shabu. Once the exchange was made, PO1 De Leon made a missed call to signal the backup team, indicating that the transaction had been completed successfully and that they should move in for the arrest. 6. Backup and arrest. After receiving the signal, the backup team moved in quickly to apprehend the suspects. They entered the house and located Lacdan in his bedroom. The backup officers then arrested both Lacdan and Rivera. PO1 De Leon recovered the bypass money from Rivera, while PO2 Carandang found a plastic sachet containing drugs in Lacdan's bedroom. 7. Post-operation procedures. Once the suspects were arrested, they were read their Miranda rights. The seized drugs were marked for identification purposes. An example, GR-B for Rivera Sachet and JL-P for Lactan Sachet. The recovered drugs were turned over to Police Inspector Gutierrez at the police station for inventory and photographs in the presence of witness to ensure the integrity of the evidence. 8. Drug examination and confirmation. The seized plastic sachets containing the white crystalline substance were sent to the PNP Crime Laboratory for examination. The results later confirmed that the substance tested positive for methamphetamine hydrochloride, which was key to establishing the drug-related charges.
Laws that govern the bypass operation. First and foremost, the operation is governed by the Republic Act No. 9165, also known as the Comprehensive Dangerous Drug Act of 2002. This law sets the guideline for handling seized drugs, ensuring they are properly marked, inventoried, and photographed. It also outlines the process of conducting a bypass operation, including the need for an undercover officer and a confidential informant. The transaction must be monitored and properly documented to ensure everything is transparent. Another law that comes into play is Republic Act No. 7031 or the Anti-Drug Abuse Council Act. This law helps coordinate efforts between local authorities and national agencies like PNP and PDEA. It ensures that the local government unit provide the necessary support and resources to carry out effective drug enforcement operations. Next, we have the Republic Act No. 9372. It is also called the Human Security Act of 2007. The law governs intelligence gathering, including surveillance and the use of informants. It makes sure that law enforcement stays within the bounds of the law while gathering information and conducting operations like by bust. We also need to consider the Philippine Constitution, specifically the Bill of Rights. It protects citizens' right to privacy and guards against unreasonable searches and seizures. However, the rights is limited when law enforcement has a valid search warrant or probable cause, which applies in the case of by-bust operation. The PNP Operations Manual is another important document. It provides specific instructions on how to conduct the operation, from planning to execution, ensuring that all officers involved are well prepared and know the rules. This manual also outlines the proper handling of evidence, making sure that everything is done by the book. When it comes to handling evidence, the rules of court are vital. They ensure that the chain of custody of the drug is properly maintained, meaning the evidence is documented and stored correctly. If the evidence is mishandled in any way, it could be thrown out in court, which is why following these procedures is so important. Then there are the PDEA guidelines which help ensure the operation is properly coordinated with the relevant agencies. The PDEA works with the PNP to ensure the operation is carried out smoothly and legally. Finally, we have the Presidential Decree No. 1829. It's a law that deals with the obstruction of justice. If someone interferes with the bypass operation, such as warning the suspects as tampering with evidence, they can be charged with a criminal offense.
Significant challenge. A significant challenge and turning point in the bypass operation occurred during the execution phase when the undercover officer P.O. De Leon successfully made the transaction with Juliet Rivera. While everything seemed to be going smoothly, the real turning point came when the operation relied heavily on timing and communication for the arrest to happen seamlessly. The critical challenge came after the transaction was completed. P.O. De Leon had to make a missed call to signal the backup team to move in for the arrest. This was a crucial moment because if the timing had been off or if the backup team hadn't acted quickly enough, the suspect could have escaped or destroyed the evidence. A delay could have jeopardized the entire operation. Fortunately, the backup team responded quickly and efficiently. They entered the house, arrested both Lacdan and Rivera, and recovered the buy-bust money and drugs. This quick response ensured the success of the operation, but it also highlighted how essential it was for all officers to be properly coordinated and ready to act at a moment's notice. The arrest was a pivotal moment as it turned the operation from potential failure into a successful bust, with all suspects apprehended and crucial evidence secured.
Evaluation of the effectiveness. First is the apprehension of suspects. The operation successfully apprehended the two key suspects, Lacdan and Rivera, who were directly involved in the transaction. PO1 De Leon completed the buy-bust with Rivera, and the backup team moved in at the right moment to arrest both suspects without any issues. Second is the seizure of drugs and evidence. The operation's success was further marked by the recovery of key evidence, the buy-bust money, and the illegal drugs involved in the transaction. The drugs, which were the main focus of the operation, were secured, ensuring that important evidence was preserved for further investigation and prosecution. Third is the prevention of escape and destruction of evidence. One of the significant risks in such operation is that the suspects may attempt to flee or destroy the evidence once they realize they are under investigation. In this case, the backup team responded quickly to PO1 De Leon's signal, preventing the suspects from escaping or destroying the drugs or buy-bust money. Lastly, securing a successful prosecution. By arresting both suspects and recovering significant evidence, the drugs and the buy-bust money, the operation set the stage for a successful prosecution. The evidence collected would be pivotal in the legal process to charge and prosecute the suspects for their involvement in drug-related crimes. In conclusion, the buy-bust operation was a clear success. The suspects were caught as planned, with all the necessary evidence like the drugs and the buy-bust money securely seized. The operation was carefully executed, preventing the suspect from escaping or destroying any evidence. As a result, the case is strong and successful prosecution seems likely. Overall, the operation effectively disrupted criminal activity and helped ensure justice would be served.
Lastly, the final discussion is to evaluate legal, ethical, or procedural issues that arose during the operation. These are the following. Number 1 is entrapment. Operation might arouse the question about whether law enforcement set Rivera up to commit a crime he couldn't have committed otherwise. If the officer pushed him into selling drugs, it could be seen as entrapment. Number 2 is a right and due process. Rivera must be properly informed of his Miranda rights, like the right to remain silent and the right to have a lawyer. If he was not, his arrest might be considered unlawful, and any evidence obtained could be thrown out. Number 3 is handling of evidence. The drugs and money used in the operation must be carefully documented and tracked. Any slip-ups here, like losing track of the marked bills or tampering with the drugs, could cause serious problem in court. Number 4 is police behavior. The officer must act ethically if they use excessive force or mislead Rivera in a way that goes too far. It could raise concern about misconduct. Number 5 is a proof of the crime. The prosecution has to show that the sale actually happened. If there are inconsistency in the evidence, like the drug might matching up the description or not being tested properly, the case could fall apart. Number 6 is marked money issue. The marked bills used in the bribe must handled carefully. If they were switched or tampered with, it could hurt the case. Number 7 is fair trial. Rivera deserved a fair trial without outside influences like media coverage swaying public opinion. These concerns are important because they ensure that the operation is lawful, fair, and transparent, and that justice is done properly.